Hi, Dan.
Hi, Paulina. How are you?
Hey, nice to see you. Where are you calling from?
I'm in Mallorca, in Spain. Yeah, we moved out to Spain about 3 years ago with my family. So we do all our business because we're all online, 100% online. So we realised we could work from anywhere in the world. So we moved from England to Spain.
Oh, cool. So you're originally from the UK and then you moved to Spain, right?
That's right. Yeah, we lived in Manchester and Liverpool in the UK, and the weather is not so good there. So we moved
I
to Spain.
see. That makes a lot of sense. I'm originally
Yeah.
from Lithuania. Then I lived in Canada for 15 years and now moved to
Okay.
Turkey. Also about the
Okay.
weather. Yeah.
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 Get that.
So today I called you to chat a little bit about outsourcing, and I've heard that you are quite an expert and you have a lot of experience in that. And in my business, I am really struggling with with that at the moment. So I had to let go a few people, and I'm trying to come up with nice processes to hire new VAs. So I was hoping you could give me a little bit of a few tips on where do I even start. I will hear your process and maybe I'll ask you some questions. What's your
Yeah,
process?
sure. I will see if I can help. Um, so when I started selling on Amazon, I had a full-time job and I had we'd recently had a baby, so I didn't have a lot of time to spend on my business. So there's two things when you get into outsourcing that I think you need to think about. One is you're outsourcing to save you time because you don't have enough time to do things. The other is you outsource because you have established processes already in place that can be repeatable. It's the same steps over and over again, and it's not the best use of your time to just do something repetitive that doesn't add a huge amount of value. So what I always recommend to people to do is to look at their existing processes. So break down what do you do each day. You might have 10 different things to do, 15 different things to do, and each of those things will have a process. And what we do is we break down that process into steps. So a good way to start is, what is the thing that takes you the most amount of time? So for me, originally we started on Amazon doing online arbitrage, and the thing that took most of our time was product sourcing, was finding products to sell. So I broke that down into step-by-step process. We actually did a process map for that, which you don't have to do, but it helps. And once we understood what our process was, we realized it was taking 80% of our time, and it was something, and most of the steps in there were something that anyone could do if we showed them how to do it properly. So what I did was start finding virtual assistants online and getting them to do the process for me. Now, I didn't do it properly the first time, and I think it's useful to understand this. So if I take you back a step, before I documented my process, I went and hired a virtual assistant to do my product sourcing for me. And I recruited someone who's experienced in finding products to sell on Amazon. And I thought, well, okay, they already know what they're doing, and they will be able to go and do that for me. And they did it, and they weren't very good at it. Products they were finding were not profitable, or they didn't sell, and they weren't following my instructions. So that's when I took it back to the process that I'd mapped out and realized that what I'd done is recruited someone who had been trained by someone else to follow someone else's process, and rather than follow my own. So we took it back, and I recruited someone who had no experience doing anything on Amazon related at all, and trained them exactly the way I wanted them to work. So that took longer, but it was worth it because they didn't have any bad habits from the previous who they worked for before, and they would do things exactly the way I wanted to do them. So it was a good mistake to make, in the sense that it helped me understand, how I should be recruiting virtual assistants. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but when you say no experience and it takes longer to train, that's a very interesting approach. Instead of taking someone who already knows, thinks that they know how to do it, or have a different process in mind, and then you're trying to reteach them a different way. I guess it's harder than just teaching someone from scratch. That's a nice approach.
Well, it is, and I think a mistake a lot of people do, whether it's with arbitrage or private label, is they think that, especially when people are just getting started, they think that there's a solution, a magic bullet, that if they just recruit someone who knows what they're doing, they don't have to do it themselves. But if you don't understand the process perfectly yourself, if you don't have an established working process, how can you expect someone else to do that for you? And we see this all the time. We do consultation calls with other Amazon sellers. They're having problems with virtual assistants. And it's the same problem each time, is that they haven't understood and mapped their own process. They've just expected someone who they're paying $3 an hour to be able to do it better than them. And that will never happen. You cannot expect, it's very rare for a virtual assistant to do your job better than you can. What you need to, your mindset should be, is I need someone to do the repetitive parts of that process and produce some results for me, which I will then analyse further and make a decision on. It's still saving me many hours a week in time, and I'm still getting good results, but do not expect a virtual assistant to be better than you. You're paying them $3 an hour, it's not going to happen.
It's interesting, you're saying to outsource these processes first that already have the process in them. But in my case, I often need new people to hire when it's still very messy, like in the beginning of something. Let's say I sell dresses on Amazon, right? So I invented this new line that I'm going to do of humble dresses. And humble, have certain necklines. One is like round neck, another one is like turtleneck, and there's certain necks that make it more humble. So it's still in such a messy process, and I don't have it figured out fully in my head yet myself. And because of such an overload of work, I'm doing other things at the same time, right? Running a shopkeeper and doing the Amazon selling, all of these things, I don't really have time to do it myself. So I feel like I want to outsource it before even I build that process. So is it even possible or not really?
99% of the time, I would say that was the wrong time to outsource. And this is what we teach people, is that you need to know how it works. You could get lucky, or there could be a part of that process that you can outsource, that maybe it's not the whole process. But yeah, for me, I wouldn't recommend at that stage outsourcing something if you haven't got an established working process.
So what's that established point? Like, how much do I need to have established? So like, what is considered a process?
I think if 75% of your process is basically, that you're doing the same thing each time, or a very similar thing each time, and you're just repeating it over again. Once about 75% of your process is established in that way, then and that could take a few days, it could take a few weeks. Once that's in place, then it doesn't matter too much about the other 25% of it, because you can kind of tidy that up yourself. But I would say you need to have an established 75% of your process in place. Like I say, when you map it, my job before I started selling on Amazon was process improvement. So I worked for a huge company, international company, and I'd go to their offices and look at their processes and help them make them more efficient. So my skills are in mapping processes. You don't have to. You can write down each step of the process in order. And once you start doing that, two things will happen. One is you will find that you can make your own process more efficient, because you will find areas that you maybe don't need to do, or you can do differently. So you can usually save time in your own process. And two is you realise how much of your process is repeating the similar things over and over again, and that's the point where you can start potentially outsourcing.
Because the particular problem was I wanted to have an Instagram account for that style of dresses, right? So, but I didn't want to spend the time to be creative. What type of supposed to post, how to get the followers, what hashtags to use, like all those things. So I didn't really have anything established yet. I just was hoping to hire someone who's just going to figure it out creatively. So I will just give them one task: grow the Instagram following, and then how they're going to do it, I will just leave it up to them. So is it even possible? Is it different kind of?
It is. However, you use the word creative there, and if if you were hiring someone and you were paying them $3 or $4 or $5 an hour, you shouldn't really expect them to be creative, because if you need to be hiring someone with more expertise. What you were getting is someone who may be very good and can follow a process. Now, with social media marketing, you could find someone who has experience on Instagram and will be able to grow your following, and that's fine. So I did something similar with a Facebook page. So I wanted a Facebook page related to a product of mine. I wanted more likes and it to become more popular. So I hired someone and it was more popular. However, the 20,000 people who ended up liking my page, most of them were based in Asia. My product was in the United Kingdom. The people from Asia were not going to be buying my product. So they might have liked it. It was soccer related. It was related to Manchester United football team. So there's a lot of people who like Manchester United football team in Asia, but they weren't my potential customers. So this is where with something like Instagram to market your product is a fantastic way to do it. However, you need to be incredibly specific with your person you were hiring, your virtual assistant, as to what, just saying, I want to grow my followers isn't enough. I want to grow my followers with this demographic. With, if it's a dress, so it needs to be female, aged between 20 and 40, and they need to be in this location. Now, so there you can potentially hire someone who knows how to use Instagram, and if they're following your instructions to grow your specific demographic, that could actually work very well without you having to map a process out for them.
Okay, it makes sense.
It's about the more options you give to a virtual assistant, so the more decisions they have to make, there is an increased risk in what they could go off and do the wrong thing. The less decisions you take, you give to them, the better. So they just follow. So they know I need to grow. I need to appeal to this gender, this age, this location. Then they don't have to think about it, and they can concentrate on that. So that is possible.
What about another set of instructions? So I'll give you a task and you tell me if that's vague or if that's specific enough for a VA.
Okay.
So I will tell them that I am looking to find 1920s looking purses. So actually I knew that the keyword 1920s purse is good in Halloween, and I wanted to have a purse like that. But I didn't want to pick up something from 1688.com or AliExpress that is already has the keywords. I wanted something that looks like, but they don't know how to market it yet. So I'll buy that and market it with different keywords. So now the task that I would give them is probably go to 1688 and look for my 1920s looking purse, but not those which have the keywords. So like, is that good enough, or I should give specific instructions how to find them?
Okay, yeah, it's almost good enough, but what you would need to do is you would need to show them 3 or 4 examples, ideally via video. So you record a video of you doing that activity, and show it so that they can follow the process, they can see you doing it, and they can see the potential results that they would find. So I would say it's not enough to give an instruction. When you want them to look for something specific or that looks a specific way, they need to see examples. So you would do examples of the products you were looking for, but ideally you would also show them examples of types of products that you are not looking for. So it could be, you don't want them to find products that already have the keywords. So you would just show them an example of that. Or you don't want a product that looks like a certain way or is a certain color or something like that. So it's examples of doing it correctly and it's examples of doing them incorrectly. And then what you would do what I would recommend when you hire a virtual assistant is to give them a 1-week trial. So you might actually recruit 2 or 3 or 4 virtual assistants at the same time, give each of them a trial, and you monitor their work and you see what the outcomes are, and the person who is the best or works best for you or is the best fit for you, but that's the person that you would give the job to.
I like the 1 week trial a lot. I've been giving 1 month trial, but I find like in 1 week I already know, and I've let go a lot after 1 week, and they say, that's it, you're ending my 1 month trial, and they're like
Yeah.
upset and crying to my ear. I guess I overpromised them with the 1 month trial. 1 week trial.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're exactly right. After 1 week, whether someone is gonna work for you. So can I ask, when you've recruited a virtual assistant, do you monitor their daily work in any way? Do you track the time that they're working or anything like that?
So in my experience, I used to not track anything. Well, I would just ask them to manually log their tasks and time, right? And I found that backfired on me. I've eventually discovered that a few of my people, one of them in particular, was working full time for someone else as well. So I guess I wasn't even giving him enough jobs. Another one kept saying, I'm in the hospital or my computer broke down or the weather was bad or all these things, just to keep mentioning some problems. And again, so now I'm using Hubstaff to track their time.
Yeah, because it's interesting, because we use Hubstaff as well, and at first we didn't like it because we felt as though it was intrusive to that person, because certainly at first what we used the time logging facility, and Hubstaff, I don't know if you use where it takes screenshots at random points during the day.
I've disabled that for a few of my people who said they were uncomfortable. My older employees. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's exactly the way to do it, and that's the way we teach people to do it. So at first, until you've got them established, then I think you need to see what they're doing. And we've had the same issue as you've had, is that we've had a virtual assistant working for someone else at the same time as us. They were duplicating the work, so the work they were giving us, they were giving someone else, and they were being paid twice for it. Yeah.
Oh, so that's bad.
I know. So using Hubstaff to record their time and take screenshots of their laptop, of their computer at random times, even if it's just for a month, gives you the confidence that they are working the way that you want them to, working for you, and working the amount of time. Because again, we found what Hubstaff does is record their active time. So we were finding we had a VA who we liked, but was only active about 30% of the time. And we were paying them for 100% of the time. And now you can't expect someone to be active 100% of the time, but 60, 70, 80% of the time they should be working. So it's really useful for things like that. So I'm glad to hear you using Hubstaff. It's what we use.
Oh my God, that's exactly what happened to me. So I had this assistant that seemed to not be work enough. I don't know. I just felt it for like a few months. And then I started like slowly blaming him, are you going to work today? I want to know your schedule. Can you share your schedule with me? Can I rely on you to be here tomorrow? That kind of questions. And then he felt it and started fighting back, and I was just being pressured and feeling guilty, how can you mistrust me? I deliver the results. Don't look at my hours, look at my results, like all these things. And then we actually implemented Hubstaff on his account. And I think by accident, he worked for someone else while tracking on my tracker. Maybe he didn't notice there was screenshots. I'm not so sure, but that's what revealed to me that he's working for someone else. I saw the tutorial links, the other guy sharing with him, Amazon seller as well. Oh, that was pretty sad. So I had to let him go immediately because of this.
Yeah, no, it does happen, and I think that's again something that we say to people is don't expect to get the perfect virtual assistant the first time. And people get frustrated and they think that outsourcing to a virtual assistant in the Philippines or wherever, it doesn't work. It does. You've just got to take the time to recruit them properly, to train them properly, and to manage them properly. And, we talked about monitoring their work and making sure that they're working for you. It's important as well to do the nice side of things. So to whether it's to show an interest in them and their family, to engage with them, to ask them how they feel it's going, to get their feedback. A lot of virtual assistants will just tell you what they think you want to hear. So they will say, yes, it's going fine, everything's perfect, even if it isn't. But I think the more you can engage with them and establish a relationship and a rapport with them, the more loyal they will be to you, the more they will work better, and you don't need to use hub staff and things like that as much. So it's not just about, monitoring their work, it's balancing it with managing them properly as well. I think that's really important.
So hub staff, would you say, is that only for VAs or for like any employees that you have? Because we are now talking about those helpers that just follow the process. What if I do have like a marketing manager who is creative, who is paid a lot of money an hour? Do we still track these kind of employees, or is it not really?
It's not an area I've got a huge amount of experience with. And in my opinion, because I've managed, hundreds of staff, when I work for a big company, that wouldn't be, in that situation, that wouldn't be a way that would work well. And I think it's not likely to motivate people. There you were more judging someone on the results that they provide for you, rather than seeing what they're doing on a day-to-day or hour-to-hour basis. So I think it's better for lower-paid people who are doing more repetitive tasks than more creative tasks.
Okay. I like Hub Staff because it has auto payment feature. So it takes right away from my TransferWise account and sends to them, in euros and Philippine pesos, I think that is, right? And like all the different currencies that they want, just pulls it from my account and automatically sends them every week based on the number of hours that they worked. So I really like that hands-off auto payments. That's why I was considering Hub Staff on these types of employees that don't really need the time tracking, just for that auto payments feature. So I'm not so sure.
Okay. I don't know if you can use it to schedule auto payments, but without tracking time. I don't know.
Maybe if I log the time manually, that could be an option. Yeah, I don't know. I'll look into it. I have a good question for you that is very important to me. Like, what's the interview process when you are choosing a VA? Like, how do you define that reliability in them, that they're not going to be gone after 2 months? Like, what do you look for?
Okay, it's a good question. So I would take it back a step further. So I would take it back to where you are placing your job advertisement when you were recruiting them. So it obviously, depending on what you want them to do, for a lot of what we use virtual assistants for, we don't want them to have experience on Amazon. So we will be as specific as possible in the job advert and what we want them to do without mentioning Amazon anywhere. So whether it could be, they will need analytical skills, we can make a list of the skills that they would need. But within the job advert as well, we will ask a question, or maybe 2 or 3 questions, and say, when you apply for the job, please answer these questions. And it's amazing how many people do not answer the questions. They see a job advert, think, okay, and they're probably applying for 20 jobs that day. And they will just apply with generic responses, or they won't have read the advert properly. So that's a really good way to filter out people who are maybe not got attention to detail, will not follow instructions properly, to filter those out at the beginning. You could filter out 50% of applicants just from that process. And the interview process, it's a tricky one, because a lot of people are not comfortable using Skype or interviewing someone face-to-face if they haven't had experience of doing that kind of thing. So ideally, you would do a Skype call and you would do an interview, like a normal job interview. However, if you're not comfortable with that, that's okay. But you need to set up, whether it's on a chat platform or a project management platform, like, I don't know, Sana or something like that, where you can conduct an interview in real time, where you are asking a question and the person is typing a response. And again, it's a tricky one, because without talking to someone face to face, you can't get a feel for body language, for expressions and things like that, which in a normal job interview you would do. So you just need to make sure that the question, if you're not doing a face-to-face interview on Skype or similar, that you need to be very specific with your questions, and have them planned in advance, and to be able to monitor the answers the answers to there. If you ask someone if they're going to be reliable, they will say yes.
Yeah, I bet you.
Yeah.
That's right.
So perhaps you need to give them an example of, you need to ask them to give an example of when they have demonstrated when they've been reliable. Or you need to give them an example of, if this situation happens, what would you do in that situation? So if you were unable to, if I was offline for 2 days and you were unable to get in touch with me, what would you do? And, just questions like that that might make them think, and you were able to judge their response better, better doing that than closed questions when they just have to say yes or no.
It's interesting that you talk about video interviews. I have done a lot of video interviews as well, but I don't like doing them myself. So I have a VA who worked for me for 7 years. She does everything. And
Okay.
I got her to do the Zoom interviews after they passed the sort of like the first stage, which is, let's say, writing something or some little sample task. Then the next step is for her to contact them to do a Zoom interview, and maximum 10 minutes, because I can't watch that long, all the interviews. So then she just puts the recording links to the spreadsheet, and I just check, the video. From that, I decide if I want to move them to the next stage. So it's interesting that you say that video interview is actually crucial part of the interview process, that is important.
I think it is, again, because of, I think, sort of body language and things like that are obviously easier to read if you're doing a video interview. But I also understand that sometimes the reason people get into online businesses is because they're not comfortable doing things like that. So it could be that, they don't want to interact in that way, and that's absolutely fine. And again, some of the potential VAs might not be 100% comfortable in being interviewed face to face. I mean, these are generally people who English is not their first language, so they might find it easier to write something, to type something to the computer, than to have to speak it. So you might get a better response sometimes from them answering written questions because they're able to take the time over them a bit more. So it can work both ways.
I can personally relate. I was totally not willing to do the video when I started 10 years ago, my online entrepreneurship stuff. And even I was doing affiliate marketing, and every affiliate network would need approval on a phone call. No video, just a phone call. And I would fight the phone call like crazy, and they would assume I'm some sort of spammer, but I don't want to get on the call, and decline my account.
Well, it's strange, isn't it? So when the companies I worked for before, I would do a presentation to 250 people. I'd stand in front of them and present to them. That when it came to having to interview one virtual assistant on the other side of the world by video, I didn't want to do it. And so I started off not doing video interviews. And it's really just getting that first one done and out the way. And I think once you do it, you realise it's quite easy. You might even enjoy it. And then you get the confidence to do it again. So I would always say, even if you're not comfortable, try one. If you're still not comfortable, fine, but you've not lost anything. It's definitely, I think as well, by doing video interviews, and then if you hired someone and you were working with them every week, maybe you do a video with them every week, or maybe you do a video with them every month to see how they are, to see if they've got any questions. But having a face-to-face relationship with someone really builds rapport. And having rapport with someone who's working for you is so important, because, like I said before, they're more loyal to you. They feel as though they're part of your company. So they want to succeed. They want to do well for you because you've established that relationship. And I think if you can do that, that helps such a lot.
Could you tell me your list of questions, like what you typically ask? I'm very curious to hear. What's your just the standard questions that maybe not relating to the job you're gonna give them?
I think it is difficult. So we try to ask questions like, what motivates you as a person? What do you want to achieve in life? But what we found is, like I said, we generally recruit virtual assistants from the Philippines. What we found is that they are not generally very comfortable answering questions like that. Some will be. So it can be difficult to try and find out a bit more about someone what is their motivation. Because if you know what motivates someone, that you can use that when you are managing them. But if they are not really particularly willing to answer it, it's tricky. So what we find is what works better is getting them to give examples of things that they've done and ask them to tell you what they would do in a certain situation. Like I said, dealing with unusual situations is a good one. Like I say, if they can't get in touch with you for 2 days and they don't have any instructions and they're not sure what to do, what would they do? Because that does make them think, and they're not having to talk about themselves from a personal point of view, which they might not be comfortable with, but you can still get a really good indication of what a person is like by them telling you either how they've behaved in a certain situation that's work-related or how they would behave in a hypothetical situation.
There's this interesting point I wanted to bring up. Some people are just good at interviews, but not so good at day-to-day activity. For example, I'm like that. I can ace any interview, but actually when it gets to doing something, I am more of a creative kind. I create the new process, invent new idea, and then someone else can do day-to-day. I'm not so good at day-to-day, right? Now I know my strengths, but in the old times, I would go to IBM and be like, always, I'm gonna get the job I want. I got the IBM to be software developer there, and EA Games, that was like the most competitive internship at my university. I got it because I feel I was good at interviews. But actually, when I got to the job, it was the most boring job ever. You learn everything in 2 months, and then you're just a coding monkey, same. I just want to get out of there, and I feel that when I'm interviewing now VAs, I always try to search for the kind of person like me, and the one question that I'm trying to ask them, do you think of starting your own business? Did you ever think of starting your own business? And why or why not? And from that, I gauge their entrepreneurial aspirations. And I don't want entrepreneur kind, because entrepreneur kind are all creators, but not doers most of the time.
Yes. Okay.
So I always ask, have you ever considered starting your own company, and why or why not? And I want to see from what they say to kind of try and guess if they are going to be entrepreneurial. So
that's interesting. That's interesting, because you would. I like that approach, because you would. Because I guess a VA would probably think, they probably want me to be like an entrepreneur, but you actually don't, and because you've identified the exact reasons why, because that, like you say, it's like yourself who might not be able to focus on repetitive tasks. So you do that. I like that. You kind of want the opposite of an entrepreneur.
Cool. I have another question for you here on my list. What about the docs? I usually, when I train someone, I just create a video, and I am very lazy to actually write out the process and everything. Is the process important to have there or not?
I say yes. The reasons for that, there's a couple of reasons. One is that some people's learning styles are different. So one person might learn better visually, being able to see something on a video, but someone else, their learning style might be to read something and absorb it and then go away and do it themselves. So, because we do virtual assistant product sourcing training programs that Amazon sellers put their virtual assistants through. And the way we structure that is for every process, we do a video, and we also have the videos captioned into Tagalog, which is the language of the Philippines. Which generally the English is very good, but it's just an extra way for us to make sure that the person is understanding the process. And for each video, we also do a process walkthrough where it's written. And we use, on our websites, the person can click a button, it will automatically translate what we've written in English into Tagalog. So if they want to read it in their own language, they can.
Cool.
We use a lot of screenshots so that they can see examples. So we talked earlier about it's really good if you can show someone examples of how to do something and how not to do something. And we also have a process map, which will walk through them step by step, the process as well. So it's using 3 different ways. And the reason we do that is really to embed the learning and the process into that person, so that they have every opportunity to absorb that. It reduces the chances of them making mistakes, and like I say, it also appeals to different learning styles. Now, I know that for a lot of people that's potentially too much work to do. So, but I would definitely recommend, if at all possible, video is very important, but also written step by step with screenshots can really help them absorb that better.
You mentioned something interesting, sourcing training program. Let me share my screen. I will show you what I have seen as a training program for VAs. So I put it on I have this resources list on my site where I put all kinds of things that I discover. And there is one section I created, Find and Train Virtual Assistant. So there is something that is offered by onlinejobs.ph. Like they teach, they have a Seller Central training for them. So basically you can have your VA go through the Seller Central training, and it will teach all the basics of how to do things there. So are you saying you have something that I could add to this category? Is there?
Yeah. We like I say, we have, it's aimed at arbitrage sellers, online arbitrage, but it's very specific, and it works really well. We've had really good feedback, because it means that because we've created it specifically to help a virtual assistant find profitable products, but also to analyze them without having to make any of the decisions themselves. They don't have to be creative. They don't have to think, is this a good product or not? Because we've given them very specific criteria that they can follow, and to provide a list of products. So yeah, I'll definitely share that with you, and you can include that.
Can you tell me what's the URL for that?
Yeah, it's virtualonlinearbitrage.com.
Did I make any typos? Virtual online arbitrage.
That looks good.
All right, let's check it out. The most effective way to make money on Amazon FBA, you need more profitable hours. So everything is about arbitrage here?
Yeah.
Great. So how does it work? Like, I'm gonna sign up myself and go give my assistant VA to go through this? I'm not an arbitrager. I'm just asking for the people who may be watching, who may be.
Yeah. So what this is I mean, some parts of it would be useful for people who just want to recruit a VA, because what you get is a client hub, which is an area for you, and in there we teach you how to recruit, where to recruit a virtual assistant from, how to recruit them, how to manage them, using something like Hubstaff. We have sample contracts, sample non-disclosure agreements, things that can help you just recruit a virtual assistant. Then we have the section where you can train your virtual assistant, or they get trained. So we teach them. You can teach them how to use sourcing software to find products, or you can teach them how to use just manually source products, or you can do a combination of both.
Oh, cool. It actually has quizzes. Like most online courses don't have a quiz. You just read, watch, and that's it. Now you have quizzes.
Yeah, exactly. And so the virtual assistant, they can't go on to the next section until they've passed the quiz. And again, it's another way to embed the learning with them, so that they're not just saying, yes, I've done the course and I know what I'm doing. They actually need to understand, what they've been taught.
Very interesting. It's nice that you translated to Filipino, but I'm thinking, if you translate it, does that mean their English is not that good? But I already hired them, right? So you are translating.
I don't actually think the translation is necessary. It's really just an extra feature that we've included to, if it helps. If a virtual assistant, there's just one small bit that they don't quite understand, that they can translate it and it might help them. But everything is in English, the videos are in English, the processes are in English. It's just something that might be useful for them.
Okay, yeah, I understand. Sometimes they just want to be double sure, especially in the beginning when you learn the language, you don't feel confident in every single word. So yeah, I guess it helps. Cool. All right. So I'll add you guys to my list. Thanks for sharing that one.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, so let me see if I had anything else. So yeah, the last question that I have is about reliability. How to try and gauge that reliability, like if she's going to be a reliable employee or not. So you're saying test them for 1 week, right? But what exactly am I looking for? What sort of signals are good and bad? You know, what indicates that they're going to be bad or good?
So, I mean, because we put our virtual assistants through a very specific training course, we're able to monitor their progress through the training, so we can see where they're up to and how much they've completed. So what we will do is, it's kind of additional testing. So we will get them to give an example of, we'll say, can you please find a product for us to sell on Amazon from this online store? And so we won't just expect them to go away and start working for us as soon as there'll be additional things that we want them to do, and how they respond to those it's almost like a challenge we'll give them, or a task we'll give them, and how they respond to that. It generally gives a pretty good indication of how they will work in the future. So if they can come back relatively quickly and produce the right kind of results, then we know that, okay, they've understood the training, they've understood a task that we've given them, and they've been able to provide us with a positive result. But if they struggle in any way with that, it's okay. They may need some extra training and extra coaching, which is fine, and we can do that. We can spend a bit more time. We can extend their trial by a week. That's no problem. But we might start to get a feel that this person, they've said the right things, like you said. Some people will say the right things in an interview, but can they actually deliver? And that's where, so setting particular tasks or challenges related to the training that you've given them is a good way to find out how they're going to respond in certain situations.
Very interesting topic indeed. Yeah, I agree. And it's kind of an art to figure it out, right? I guess in the beginning you will not be so good, and then once you do it, and you become better.
Yeah. Like I say, and we made quite a lot of mistakes when we were recruiting. So, and it took us a while to get that process established that worked, and we could repeat that process successfully recruiting virtual assistants. It is, and you need to be comfortable with. This is why we give someone a 1 week trial, and you need to be able. It doesn't feel very nice to say to someone, "Okay, we don't want to work with you anymore," and you need to be prepared to do that. But if you recruit the wrong person, you'll waste time, you'll waste money, and it won't be good for them in the long run either. So you need to be prepared sometimes to make difficult decisions. But yeah, it took us a while to get it right, and we recruited virtual assistants who we had to let go. We were always willing to do extra coaching and extra training. It's not just, if someone isn't working out for you after a couple of days, don't just fire them. Spend some time and try and understand why it's not working. Is it your instructions haven't been clear enough or specific enough? But it's finding that balance between, spending time training and realizing that you've recruited the wrong person and you need to try someone else.
I'm pretty quick to let go. Now you've said, don't let go so quickly. I'm pretty quick, like they didn't respond for 3 days or something, and I'm already, okay, bye-bye.
Yeah, absolutely. Something like that. If you're not getting communication, so it's worth as well, and we recommend not to communicate via email. So there's quite a lot of different like software out there, project management software. A lot of it you can use free versions, and we recommend using that to manage your work relationship. I don't know if you use anything like that, or you do.
We are using Slack here, but I tried the new. It's so hard, because we are using Monday.com and Hubstaff and Slack, and once I've set them up on everything, for me it's such a huge, amount of overhead to set them up, and then I have to let them go. So I try to just put them on Slack and avoid all the other platforms in the beginning.
Yeah, I think that's a sensible approach. But as long as, I think, like I say, we recommend to people to use something like that, because if you're doing emails, everything takes so much longer. If you have something that has a chat functionality to it, it's quicker. If you might need to upload files that they want to access. So, and because we've had for years when we were doing everything via email, who would say they'd never received a file, even though we knew we'd sent it. But if you use something else, you can kind of prove that something exists and something is there. So like we create sourcing schedules. So we will do a week's schedule for someone to follow, so they know exactly what they're doing and when they should be doing it. So using how you communicate that to them is really important to make sure that they follow it.
It's interesting. I've set up also, before I used to not have such a thing. Now I have a spreadsheet and I call it user access management. So I have all of my people and what I give access to, like Dropbox folder shared, Slack created account of email, and then shared my LinkedIn password and all of these things, and in the end, if I have to let go someone quickly and now I find out he's working for someone else, and what did I give, what access, I forgot, it's been a while. So now I have to just keep track of it in a spreadsheet, what's granted, what's revoked, and learning over the years, I guess, as we go.
Yeah, you do. And you're right. Once you might not have that when you start out, but you start to build up a way of working with someone that makes things quicker and easier going forward.
Yeah, I'm very curious. It's very nice to hear that you have very similar experiences to what I'm experiencing. I guess it's all in the same learnings. Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Well, thank you very much for taking my call today. It's been very delightful to share experiences and to know that other entrepreneurs have similar issues and have found similar solutions to mine. And I hope it was useful for everyone watching. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. So thank you for calling me.
Thanks.